All right. We're here at Ammonia Cafe at our monthly meeting on Q&A session on Social Security, Medicaid, disability, Medicare, all those kind of topics. And so I recorded kind of our top 10 questions that came up today. And so I thought I'd just kind of quickly go through those with you and kind of chat a little bit about that. All right. So the first one was, why shouldn't I go on Social Security at 62? I'm afraid I'm going to die early. And honestly, the answer to the question is, and what we kind of chatted about was, if you really look at the data, the risk is not that you're going to die early. The risk is that you're going to live longer, right? Because when you look at the data of death, there is certainly a decent number of people who die um, younger in life. Um, but by and large, most people are living beyond 62 into 70, into their 70s, 80s, and 90s. And if you do make it to 90, most likely you're going to need institutional help. And that costs a lot of money. So that kind of led us to the next question, which was longevity risk. And that's sort of what longevity risk is, right? The reality is that if you live long enough, you will most likely end up in an assisted living facility or in a nursing facility. Assisted living could run you up to 5,000 a month. Nursing facilities can run up to $9,000 to $10,000 a month. So you start to add that up, and there's some real costs there that and who pays for that, right? So you got to think a little bit about that. There are certainly programs out there. Medicaid will pick it up if you don't have the money. But if you do have the money, you have some real issues there. So something to be aware of. Our third question was on sequencing risk. What is that, and why is that important? Well, I did a video on this, and I thought it was pretty good, which was I took a person who went on Social Security at 62, and had about a $500,000 in their 401k or IRA. And then I looked at that person. If they didn't go on Social Security at 62, they went on at 70, but used their 401k and IRA to bridge the gap. And what we saw was about a $200,000 to $300,000 reduction in federal tax income, or in federal taxes that individual had to pay. So it's very important that you think about the sequencing and think about it beyond cash flow. Think about it in terms of what are the federal income tax implications, because those are really important. Okay. That which kind of led us to this question is, oh, okay, well, how much of Social Security is taxable? And the answer to that question is it depends on how much you're making. I did put out a little Excel utility that you can pick up. If you have any questions about it, please reach out to me. But it'll tell you based on how much you're making, and how much of your Social Security will be taxable. I will point out that if you're not at full retirement age, and you don't know what that is, please reach out to me. But if you're not at full retirement age, your Social Security will be reduced by a factor for every $2 you make outside of Social Security. There are some limits in how much you can make, and you will get reductions of your payment, right? So you can actually have your entire payment eliminated quite easily. And so I'd really kind of look into that. But if you start to make amounts, above $25,000, you're going to start to see your Social Security actually become taxable, right? And that means that you're going to be paying taxes on the benefits you're getting from the government. As those amounts increase, we've seen amounts as high as 20-30% going to taxes, right? And so if you go on at 62 and you have 30% taken away, and then for taxes, and you're getting a lot less because you went on early, you can start to see, getting down to sort of like the point of being maybe even 50% of what you would have gotten if you had waited to 70 and used other methods to get you to that level, right? And to get you to that point. So people they like to hold on to that 401k and IRA pretty tightly. But sometimes that works against you. So you got to really look at the scenario. You got to do some calculations and figure out what that ultimately means. So we also had an individual who's turned down by Social Security or by SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. And that individual, wanted to know how common is that? And I would say that if you're under 50, the system is working as intended. They want to turn you down. There are, of course, some very extreme uh, situations like renal failure and some other things where you will kind of immediately qualify. But, it's very common to be turned down in applying for disability. What we have found is that key is to get legal counsel, and you get someone who has had success in your geography, and understands your situation and is willing to fight for you. Don't get hung up on the money. The money, you don't pay these guys anything, or these men and women anything, these lawyers anything until they get you your pay. They only can take a portion of your back pay, and that usually is capped at just under $6,000. So, at the end of the day, if you're going to qualify for disability and have it for a long period of time, I would highly recommend that you get legal services. And if you're in one of my jurisdictions, please reach out to me. I'll give you a couple names that I think are very good at this, and we can go from there. I have, I do get quite a few folks, and there were a couple people today that wanted to know about, well, what if I'm on Medicaid and Medicare? And I'm going to tell you that that means that you're in a very special group. And so be aware of that. And you are eligible for what's called dual special needs, which means that Medicaid will pay for your Medicare. And in addition, the private insurers that provide those those Medicare Advantage plans, like companies like Aetna, WellCare, Cigna, Humana, all those kind of companies, they offer some additional benefits for those people who are Medicaid. They offer usually some sort of debit card that has a certain amount. I think in some of my other videos, people kind of mentioned that they were getting $500-$600 a month, every quarter on these cards. That could be, $100-$200 a month. And they were using that to pay utilities. They've been using it to pay rent. They pay for lots of different things. So, that particular program can put more money in your pocket. And I recommend taking a look at that. All right, so we had an individual who asked a pretty good question, and I thought it was a good one. And that one is, what is a lifetime income annuity? And a lifetime income annuity is an insurance product that you can buy. And typically, the way that works is you put in some of your cash savings, and you can move money from a pre-tax account like an IRA into a lifetime annuity and lifetime income annuity, and without a tax implication. And then all the income you get, basically what they do is they pay you a monthly fee or monthly amount every month for the rest of your life. So if you live 10 years or you live 30 years. And I think I've seen, the one I was looking at recently was, an individual put $100,000 in today. I get that's a lot of money. And they were going to receive something like $570 a month for the rest of their life. Now, if that individual, I think they were roughly around 68 at the time, is the numbers we were looking at. If that individual had 68, if that individual only lived till 70, or if they only lived for 10 years, they were looking at basically being a little negative, right? In terms of their payments were going to be like $80,000 or something like that. If they made it beyond 10 years, that's when they started to make some money, right? So, if they made it beyond, maybe they made it to 20 years, they were kind of in that $150,000 to $200,000 range. So they actually did very well. If they made it past 90, they were doing exceptionally well. right? And that led us to a conversation of, okay, well, how does all that work? Like, how can I make more money than like the market bears or interest rates bear? And I wanted to, and so that was a great question. And so that means that gets into what's kind of considered, it's called a lifetime or a survivor credit. So what happens with these annuities is you go into this annuity with a lot of other people. It's a large pool of people. When I tell you large pool of people, it's not just like, a handful of people. It's hundreds, if not thousands of people, right? And you're all in the same kind of pool, right? And so what happens is as individuals pass away in that pool, and if there are going to be some people who are going to die early, and not make back the money they put in. And so that money goes to the pool. The people that live the longest get the most of the money, get the majority of the money. So if you are betting on a long life, a lifetime annuity is going to pay way more than what you could have earned in interest and potentially in the market, right? Because you're going to get this monthly payment every month for every month that you live, right? And so if you're going to live and 30 years on this lifetime annuity, you're going to do way better than the people that are only going to be on it 10 years, right? And those people that are on it 10 years are going to they're not, that money is not going to fall to their heirs. It's going to fall to the other people in the lifetime annuity, right? So it's a important thing to understand about it. But I have my grandfather lived to 99 and died at 99. It kind of like a fluke because of a fluke accident. My grandmother was in her mid 80s. So on my father's side of the family, I think there's really good longevity genes. So having a lifetime annuity is something that I highly recommend, and I look at and I do for myself, right? Because um, and because I'm in my late 50s, I still have time, right, before I need to draw anything. So every year you let that annuity sit, it's going to do better. It's going to grow, right? And so letting it sit for 5 or 10 years could take that 570 payment up to 750 or even close to 1,000, right? So something to be aware of. And also taking the money out at 80 or older, creates all kinds of other abilities, right? So this is one way you can hedge that longevity risk that we talked about, was by putting some money in a lifetime annuity and not taking it to your 80. You're basically going to have you're going to get those payments. And some of those annuities will even allow you to convert them into a long-term care plan. So there's a lot of stuff there. There are so many different variations of these annuity plans. Highly recommend doing some research, taking a look at it on your own. If you want to ask me some questions, feel free to do so. I can certainly give you lots of information. Last question for the day was, can I make contributions to my health savings account after I turn 65? I've heard once I turn 65, I'm no longer eligible. It's not so much about being 65. It's about no longer being on a credible coverage and electing to go on Medicare Part A and Part B, right? And so as soon as you choose to go on Medicare, your health savings account contributions are no longer allowed. Right. So I have clients who are in their mid to late 60s. They're still working for a company. They still have um, health savings accounts and they're continuing to contribute to them. And they can do so until they elect to go on Medicare. Once they go on Medicare, they can no longer elect to do it, but they have all those funds and they can use those funds for whatever they feel is necessary, even to make their Medicare payments, to make Medigap insurance payments, to do all those types of things. So, I highly recommend health savings accounts. I think that they are an excellent way to mitigate some of your longevity risks. And also maybe take some of the pressure of consuming some of your Social Security check, um, and putting that towards Medicare, right? Because Medicare does cost you $185 a month. That is this year's number. And so you need to know that you're going to have to pay that. So, having money put aside for some period of time to be able to pull from tax-free is a great thing. But again, you don't have to stop making your contributions until you go on to Medicare. So if you do that, you will no longer be eligible to make contributions, but you can still use the money that you've put aside. So hope you got some benefit out of these. I will let you, that'll be it for today. Please check out, be aware of our Social Security Q&A sessions. We do them monthly out here at Ammonia Cafe in Astoria. We do them usually on Fridays from 10 to 12. So, and we do have beverages and some snacks. So feel free to come out and enjoy us and have a good time and sit around and chat about all the different intricacies of Social Security, disability, Medicare, Medicaid, insurance of all kinds. And hopefully we'll see you out here soon.